We're aspiring to conspire at the spire. Times are dire. It's getting down to the wire. We're running out of rhymes this week on The Hapless Heroes.
There's a pregnant pause.
How far along are they?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hapless Heroes podcast. I'm Francesco, and tonight I will be your host and DM for this wonderful continuation of our adventure. I have a lovely cast of characters, as I do every week, and I'm going to introduce them starting on my digital left with Dave as Zero, Valen's Avatar of War.
Greetings!
Mike as Lord and Captain Quinn Southwind.
Ah.
Are you really going to make that your intro? Is you cracking open a fucking seltzer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A tall seltzer.
Okay.
It was a big seltzer. I wanted it to make a more powerful sound.
It made a sound though.
But I think that's all the better. I think that just makes it even better.
Oh my god.
Fuck it, we'll fix it in post.
Nicole as Boris the Butcher.
That seltzer looks delicious.
Refreshing.
Phil as Hedrick the Entertainer.
Where are you guys getting all this stuff?
And John as Lord Jha'rell the Light.
Which of you may I take with me?
Last week on the show, in our much less seltzered environment, you guys, there was some things going on, some buffoonery, some shenanigans, some, I don't know what whatever you want to call it. Boris stole a whole bunch of cured meats and veggies and things and put those in her pockets of holding. Hedrick continued to charm Shalandria. Quinn did his best to impress some guards who were unmoved by his words and charm. And Jha'rell and Zero had a very intellectual discussion about religion and the gods. You guys are pointed in the direction of Archcleric Bronson, who is overseeing things in the absence of the Supreme Archcleric Popeson, or Francis Popeson, who is currently in Ardwall dealing with things with the Summit of the Southern Kingdoms, and sent Jha'rell here to fix the dire straits that High Rock is in after all of the temples of all the other gods, aside from Valen, have fallen, and panic and chaos have set in to the fair streets of this holy city. You guys were making your way up to the spire, this massive, 12-story tall tower that stands at sort of the edge and end of the large campus in which the Temple of Valen and its residents reside, far from the common people. You were told as you were entering the spire that, only those of the Holy Order may actually ascend further up into the levels of the spire. So Jha'rell may have to leave his companions on the main floor. And we'll see what happens, though, as we're going to open this episode walking into the spire. Now, the ground level here is... it's definitely circular in fashion. There's no other necessarily rooms or other corridors or anything like that. It's just one large open room. To your left, along the edge of the building on the wall is a staircase that slowly spirals up into the ceiling, which is about 15 feet high. And there is a desk set into the center of the room. The back of it is filled with, a manner of seating, furniture like, love seats, couches, chairs. There is a hearth burning with a, warm fire there. There are, a few different stewards running about. There's a few different shelves with some public access. I'm using air quotes, right? To books and things like that to peruse for those of the archclerisy or its anything adjacent to it to come in and peruse. And there is someone sitting at the at that counter in front of a stack of. You can see them actually arranging neatly like stacks of papers, little like organizational thing like tchotchkes and whatnot all over the desk, like arranging them in almost like a meticulous, almost obsessive fashion, like where everything like like moving like an ink well, a few like centimeters to the left, like just placing everything perfectly and like constantly fumbling and restarting and just going over and over and over again, and barely pays you any mind as you enter.
Jha'rell would, of course, still bow to that person.
And this person looks very similar to some of the other like steward types that we've encountered so far from the Archclerisy. Like that stereotypical like bald head with the ring of hair around, very plain clothes. With just like a rope tying the waist. Just very, very simple clothes, very humble. But this person kind of like in their sort of frantic organizational situation looks up and just addresses you. Yes. Hello, Lord Jha'rell. Yes. It is so nice to have you back in the holy city. We are in dire need of your assistance. Great one. This is truly unprecedented times indeed.
It is quite the pleasure to be back. I have desperate need to speak with Archcleric Bronson.
Yes, I'm sure you do. He resides at the top level, undoubtedly praying to Our Lady, searching for a solution, an answer to the madness that lies beyond the walls of our campus. You may ascend freely, but unfortunately, your friends, your companions, your whomever you've traveled in here with will have to wait here with me. They are, as I cannot allow them to ascend. They have not, they are not pledged to the service of our God and our order.
Given the dire circumstances, it is imperative that we work together on this, and maybe more minds are better than just myself. Perhaps I could take one of them with me.
Make a persuasion check.
21.
He seems hesitant. He says, they're going to read me out for this. I know this, but fine. One companion, but they must swear an oath of fealty to Our Lady.
Jha'rell puts his hand on Zero's shoulder.
Fair enough. Zero would freely swear fealty, as it either means everything or nothing. But either way, it'll be perfectly sincere.
Okay, the rest of you, please follow me. We have refreshments. We have many comfy places to sit. You can warm yourselves by the fire. Just take a rest from your undoubtedly would have been a long day if you have just gotten here. As you can see, our city is in desperate need of assistance, and however we still can provide what we can to make you comfortable as our esteemed guests. And he like ushers you towards the back where like all the chairs and the fireplaces and stuff.
We appreciate that. As soon as this conversation is over, we intend to remedy what we can. Post haste.
Okay, Boris, what about you? I had a feeling.
I'm surprised they're all still visible. To be 100%.
Surprised.
I mean, Boris kind of realizes after a couple seconds that she's literally sitting there tapping her foot and looking back and forth very quickly like a cartoon character making a terrible, terrible decision, and that it's probably pretty obvious, so she decides to go sit down for this particular moment.
Okay, Quinn?
Yeah, I'm not going to test any waters here, so I'm going to patiently wait in the corner.
We all remember what happened the last time waters were tested here. Okay.
I got powers.
That's not here.
Not here.
Well, not here. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so the three of you sit in the waiting area, and this, you're very comfortable. You're brought, there's decanters of wine, if you, and there's also just water, some bread snacks, like sweet rolls, and also just bread with maybe a nice little tapenade.
Boris pockets more than she eats.
Ew. Like the raw tapenade too? Or are we talking just the sweet rolls and things like that?
The sweet rolls and things like
it's gonna
that.
be a very,
the items that I'll preserve for at least a little while.
Okay.
In a different pocket.
Hedrick considers pocketing a sweet roll, and then clearly he pulls his out. And it's not gonna fit. It's gonna get all sticky. He just decides to eat it, and then he watches Boris and just kind of observes newest member of the crew hanging out with Quinn. Quinn's obviously gonna do his own thing, so he's just sitting back.
Hey, Hedrick, make me an intelligence check.
A 9.
Okay. This sweet roll is absolutely delicious.
That doesn't make me feel any better now, Fran.
I don't understand why you don't feel good about this. I'm just saying that the sweet roll is delicious. That's the information I'm giving you. It's delicious.
Is there any fizzy water?
Fran's antics are a false flag operation until proven otherwise. Don't let him get in your head.
That's exactly what I'm aiming to do, though, and it's working. I'm in all of your heads now.
Once Boris has pocketed a couple of sweet rolls, she does observe where this cleric-type person has gone back to at this point.
Steward goes back to the desk. There are other stewards milling about, though. There's probably another maybe 4 or 5 in here doing various tasks, cleaning, reorganizing, reading.
Okay.
And the Zero and Jha'rell are allowed to go upstairs. Ascending the staircase that kind of rides the wall in a circle up, you reach a short landing, and then there is a door. The door itself has no handle. It is adorned with the same sort of filigree and sort of, annotations that it's, of the Archclerisy of Valen, and that sort of design. Jha'rell, you know that if those who possess the faith may touch the door and you would be allowed entry.
Jha'rell does so.
Yep. As soon as you place your hand on the door, you barely make contact before it unlatches and swings open. The stairs continue up a ways, a little bit longer until it opens up actually into a very large chamber. I mean, by large, I mean taking up the entire dimensions of this spire. With the ceilings high, 30 feet high. There is almost stadium seating arranged from a depression in the center. So in this circular room, there's seats in that kind of circle around and kind of raise up each level. Is this to be the oration chamber where private sermons are held, or gatherings or meetings of the faith and whatnot. There doesn't appear to be anything necessarily in the session. There are a few stewards in here would appear to be preparing for another session. Again, arranging papers, doing all the things. There's a bit of a to-do in here, but there's not really there are no people of any importance necessarily gathered discussing anything at this time. But you can see that the staircase, if you just continue to follow the wall, does eventually start rising again and up to the 3rd level.
Okay. If Jha'rell doesn't recognize this as a particularly holy area, obviously it's like a pretty important area.
It's a very important room for very important people to talk about very important things.
But no holier than any other spot so far.
Nope, just a functional room for that sort of thing.
Okay. Yep, continuing on.
So moving up to the 3rd floor, in here you can actually see that the staircase ends, and like when you get to the top to that landing, the staircase then ends, and there's a doorway to your left. So you would be entering in, kind of going towards the center of the spire. Same deal here, where there is no knob to this door.
Jha'rell touches it.
Yep, it unlatches and swings open. You enter in. It ascends again, just ever so slightly more, maybe a few more steps, and then you're actually in a short hallway at the end. Another set of stairs that lead to a couple steps that lead to a door, and then to your right and left there are 2 doors on either side of the room or the hallway here that would probably lead into other smaller or broken off chambers from this level. Ceiling here is about 15 feet high.
We're continuing on.
Okay. Yep. Passing by the doors, you reach the, short step up to the door. This one does have a pull ring.
Pull it.
You pull it. It opens. And yeah, then you see the stairs again, continue up to your left. So you follow that spiral again because you're now at the edge of the spire again, and you reach the 4th level. In here is what appears to be a smaller, another type of temple. There is a large altar towards the center of the room. There are pews arranged in here. There is a reliquary. There's also, and it kind of goes off in almost like a rectangular shape. There are some small antechambers you can see that are probably, these sort of small semicircles that have, doors kind of closing their entry, but, off to the sides of this church or, temple room itself.
How far up the temple or the spire are we?
You are on the 4th level.
Out of
6.
And this is a temple.
This is more of for private worship for those who in the upper echelons of the archclerisy.
Jha'rell will put his hand to Zero's shoulder again for a second and say, "One moment, my friend. I'd like to try something." And Jha'rell will kneel at the altar and again try to pray and contact Valen from here.
Sure. Now the altar itself, very finely crafted. It's made of marble with this cloth, this very fine silk that has gold embroidery on it, and almost like a red velvet runner in the center. On top of the altar, there are 2 chalices as well as a holy symbol of Valen. Make me a perception check.
My specialty.
I know, I love it.
Oh, a 13.
Yeah, I mean, you focus on your prayer. You say, the words you need to say. You pray for guidance. You pray for, just a sign, anything. But nothing really happens. You don't notice anything change or any response or anything happen there.
Jha'rell seems a little disappointed and continues on with Zero.
Okay.
Briefly before we leave, Zero turns to Jha'rell. She's there. She hears. You know it.
I know she hears. It's more a question of the response I'm looking for.
Lots of people are asking. Not a lot of people are getting responses.
Not a lot of people have her helmet.
Not a lot of people have our need either, but she'll respond when it's time, I'm sure. Maybe I've spent too much time around you. Your faith is rubbed off.
Something to note, too, is that you are the only two in this room. No one else is occupying this space. There's no stewards running around. There's no one keeping up on this space. Candles are lit all over the place here, kind of lighting the joint, but there's not another soul to be seen.
Jha'rell does take one look back at the temple before we continue up the stairs.
Okay, it looks like a temple.
So we continue on, yeah.
So these stairs still follow that outside ring. So and they kind of just continue after like a short walk from kind of where you came up from, and those ascend further. This goes up to another, actually just a plain door, as far as like no special magic or anything like that. Another pull ring on this one, and this one again goes up to the left and starts heading again towards the center of the spire.
Okay.
You open the door. In here is a large library, circular, spanning the entire room. Books from floor to ceiling. There are desks all over the place. Many people in here transcribing, writing. This is where a lot of the history of the realms is kept. At least, the records preserved and kept by the Archclerisy themselves. This is the records room. This is where anything that can be cataloged has been cataloged by the scribes of the church. And the scribes are furiously at work.
As we're walking through, Jha'rell turns to Zero. Anything of importance you'd like to look for while we're here? Not many people get to be here.
Most of the answers found in the sort of books that would be here wouldn't be of any particular relevance to me. I don't know if that's the right word, but maybe you know what I mean.
Jha'rell does know what you mean, and they'll continue on. He just wanted to give him a chance if he wanted to look for anything particular.
Yeah, I don't think the sort of books here would justify my time looking at them as the player thinking about it.
Fair enough. You're scanning the room, though, so both of you make perception checks.
Sure.
I have an 11.
Unnat 20. Unnat.
Wonderful. Unnatural 20. Okay. You notice it seems like almost mechanical in this room, like just because like all of the scribes are working in almost unison, like almost the same tasks. It's like they all seem to finish a page and move on to the next one, almost in like rhythmic fashion. It's just like they are just pounding them out one after the other in sync almost, with very slight deviations.
Curious.
I would also like everybody on the ground floor to make perception checks for me, please.
28.
20.
4.
Well, we're getting somewhere now, at least. Quinn and Boris, over time, are noticing that the 5 or I think I said there was like about 4 other stewards plus the guy at the desk. So the 5 stewards that, are kind of minding the fort down here. After, I don't know, how long has it been probably? It's taken you guys probably like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to like climb all these stairs to like get up to where you are now. Some of the stewards are like going from one task once they've like completed it to another, but then like after a short while, like return back to the same task they were performing before. Like dusting the same shelf, like the same shelf on that one particular area, or that same item in that same shelf, like that little vase or whatever was there.
It's almost robotic.
Almost. It just seems like you're like he already cleaned that spot. Like, did he miss a spot? You only noticed it happened like once so far, right? It's only been 5 minutes, but it's like it's just like he was literally just there. He moved on to something else. After a couple minutes, went back and started doing the same thing again. We're gonna go back to the top floor, or the second top floor.
Zero has stopped and is thinking. And after a moment, he turns to Lord Jha'rell. Actually, before I do that, just on a quick scan, are there any vases or anything, possibly breakable up here?
An interesting question. There's a lot of bookshelves with a lot of books. There's a lot of desks. There are ink wells with quills in them. There are some empty positions at these desks where there are, undisturbed papers and ink wells and quills and things inside the desks, probably. Nothing, no personal affects in here, though. Again, this is, this
Any lamps?
There are, I'll say that there are some oil lanterns, on some of the support beams. They're hanging off the side from some of the support beams in the center of the room that are, supporting the structure here. Because the ceilings here are about 20 feet tall. And there's like ladders that are like climbing up the bookshelves. As I said, these are floor to ceiling, with the way they're like on these like little like rollers that allow them to be kind of pulled from one section of a bookshelf to another. There's also a lone chandelier in the center of the room.
Oh, that's just so tempting.
All right. So Zero sees these things and walks over to one of the empty desks, takes the top off of the ink pot and grabs a quill and starts doing just a little bit of calligraphy on one of the pieces of paper while idly while he's at it.
Okay.
Or Jha'rell, I wasn't the first design they had. There was a little problem we came upon when we were settling on the design. You see, the closer and closer you get to, how best to put this in non-scientific terms, approximating people. I know it's probably a little out of your field, but when you're trying to fake a person or fake something, there's an issue when you get a little bit too close and closer to the real thing. And it was a thing they called the uncanny valley. And one of the things we noticed is the closer and closer you get to perfection, there's one thing that the product starts to lack. And Zero kind of picks up the ink pot in his hand, steps away from the desk a few steps and holds it up to around eye level, which is a good, 6.5 feet off the ground. Authenticity. And he drops the ink pot to let it shatter on the ground.
So, like ink goes all over the floor. Even some of it splashes up against, your leg, Zero. And all of the stewards in here, look at it, look at the commotion.
All at once?
More or less. They all turn their heads. And they pause from their writing. They stop, the actions that they were taking. And one of them stands up straight, walks over to a small standing closet of some kind, pulls out a mop, walks over, and then just begins cleaning without saying a word.
Zero starts whistling. Just that little ditty from The Sorcerer's Apprentice while cleaning is going on.
Jha'rell looks at Zero
knowing that he did that, I'm not sure if Jha'rell would be able to pick up what Zero is laying down there. Just knowing Jha'rell. Should I do an insight?
You could just ask him.
I don't think he would.
What's he looking at, Jha'rell?
What's the guy cleaning up the ink? What's he looking at? What is he looking at?
The ink.
Mm-hmm. What isn't he looking at?
You.
Interesting, huh? I'm still standing right here. Not one of them has acted as though there's a single other person in the room.
Jha'rell kind of backs up a little bit.
Zero. Oh, sorry. Zero leans down to towards the person working on the floor. Isn't that right, friend?
I'm just doing my job, he says.
But of course you are. What is that job?
Well, there's some ink spilled, so I'm cleaning it.
Isn't there? Not a single eye towards first causes anywhere in this town. Not since we've entered town, not here, not anywhere. Not a single person has wondered with a single symptom or a single thing beyond the symptoms they see in front of them. They see civil unrest. They turn to the people who are perpetrating the unrest without a word to what's causing it. I drop an ink pot. They clean up the ink. Not so much as a glance to the one who dropped it. No one is thinking about first causes here at all. It's concerning.
Jha'rell is just thinking about literally almost every other person's, because he's like thinking back to all the other people that have seen Zero for the first time. Being a robot, you don't frequently see them. He's again bothered by this, and he again piecing together bits and pieces. But he obviously still has trust in the faith, so he's going to start to continue on unless Zero has anything else to add.
No, I think I've seen enough here.
Yeah. I think they're both coming to similar conclusions. So yeah. Even if Jha'rell's a little bit behind Zero.
Zero could be off base. I haven't really had time to test anything with any real scientific rigor, but yeah. We're making it up as we go. Proper Omega Project science.
Okay. Are you guys moving on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys begin to ascend the stairs to the 6th and final level. On the ground floor. Everyone make me perception checks again.
Head team.
Quinn got an 8.
28? I feel like that's exactly what I got last time.
Damn. So, Boris, you know for sure now that it's been about, now at this point, probably about 15 minutes. Every single steward on this floor has repeated the same 4 or 5 tasks exactly the same way every time over the course of maybe 5 minutes.
Question, are any of the bags of grains that I picked up corn?
No. Wait, hold on.
Boris
Actually, you know what? Because I'm kind of enjoying where this thought train is going here, even though I'm not entirely sure what you're about to do. But I'm going to say Yes, because you know what? Corn is a very common vegetable that would be, grown in these parts. So, sure, you have a sack of corn.
How large is the sack of corn?
2 pounds.
Okay. How large is the hearth? You know what? It's larger than a 2-pound sack of corn.
Yes.
Boris just hucks the whole bag of corn into the hearth.
Okay, like embers fly up, right? The sack begins to smolder. Because it's made of like woven like burlap. It doesn't just immediately catch fire and just burst into flame like a piece of paper would. But it begins to catch fire, and the corn inside is beginning to get hotter and char, and eventually begins to pop. Just pop, pop. Starts slow at first, and then it's like a cacophony of just kernels just popping. And 2 of the stewards stop what they're doing and begin to come and start cleaning up all of the corn that is being popped all over the floor. Sweeping it up into dustpans, bringing it to some receptacle, coming back just mindlessly, just without even not even addressing you, just cleaning.
Boris, what the hell was that? What are these guys doing? They didn't even care that you threw that in the fire. I mean...
And they just keep cleaning all the same things over and over again?
Yeah, I just started to notice that.
I noticed that a while ago, and I just got bored of watching.
Of course you did, Cap.
So redundant.
Well, don't you think there may be something wrong with them? Don't you think maybe that Zero and Jha'rell up there are going to run into somebody that is affecting everyone around here?
When don't we run into something like that?
Definitely possible. And one of us should maybe go upstairs and check on them.
I can certainly go invisible myself. I know the Captain, Lord, Benevolent, yada yada can do the same.
I can.
I think it might be a little difficult if all 3 of us were to leave this room right now. I will volunteer unless you guys have other plans and would rather do it yourself.
I mean, I'm pretty sneaky, but not invisible sneaky.
Well, I suppose I can do my best. Excuse me, steward here. Which way to the gentleman's room?
Oh, yes, it's actually outside and to the left.
Well, thank you very much. There is a door or just like an entryway?
You would have to exit from where you came in, and there's like outhouses outside of the spire.
Okay.
No pooping in the spire.
Mm-hmm.
You don't shit where you pray, man. Come on.
Well, of course.
Well, geez, the implications of people whose offices are on the top floor are horrifying.
Just running down the stairs.
There's probably private chambers for those of a higher echelon. However, those chambers do not exist for the lowly.
Hold it.
So many stairs!
Cassock kind of up around his hips, like shuffling quickly down the stairs.
If I had to just leave the room that we were enjoying those refreshments in by the hearth, that is one open area?
It's all one, open floor plan on this first floor here.
Okay. I have to at least make it seem like I'm doing what I said I was going to do. As I open that front door, I imagine I'm seeing guards everywhere.
You don't open that front door. It is locked.
Oh.
Hold it.
I will just kind of just like smile and then continue to walk the way I saw Jha'rell go.
The steward who's behind the desk says, No, only the faithful. Only the faithful may climb the stairs. I must ask you to please remove yourself from the stairs immediately.
Boris immediately runs over to the desk and shoves all of the papers off of it. Like in a flurry into the room.
Wow. The steward begins frantically catching the pages as they're falling from them and arranging them again, like looking at the pages and then putting them in the proper like order, as if there was like like they were like sequential. Shuffling up, grabbing the ones from the ground, like trying to like reset. It is now frantically occupied with doing that.
As soon as neither of the stewards are observing me, I would just go invisible.
Which are you using? Just invisibility, or are you using something else?
Oh, well, I suppose it's greater invisibility.
Oh, that's pretty great. All right. I would like for you to roll me a D100.
All right. 32.
Just a moment.
Uh-oh.
Yikes.
Wait, is this the wild magic table that was? I haven't heard this in a while.
The DM asks you to roll a D100 and says, hold 1 minute. You know there's shit hitting fans.
As you begin to cast the spell, it feels odd to you. Like, you kind of pulling from the weave and trying to, kind of craft the spells. You're gesticulating and chanting the words that, you've cast the spell before. You know how it works. Instead, the spell fizzles and an overwhelming amount of confetti flies from your hands.
Confetti!
Overwhelming amount.
All creatures in a 15-foot cone in front of you are now heavily obscured. And you to them.
Because of all the confetti!
And now
So
the
I
other
will-
stewards who are who are not cleaning up the popcorn and who's not shuffling the papers now begin frantically sweeping up confetti. But your spell failed.
I will try to make that motion to go continue to follow the way I saw Jha'rell go. Yeah.
Failed successfully.
So everything that like Hedrick casts through music, or I would think through movement as well. Like dance can certainly be part of it. He's like kind of a jester, and he can tumble and he can flip. And
your musical implements are your arcane focus.
So I would imagine he has a drum. He's kind of tapping when he starts his rhythms. He can pull his lute out, or he can start to cast using other formations, right? And when this whole confetti flies out, it's startling. And certainly he sees the effect that it has, and then it's a back handspring, boop, boop, right out of the room.
Towards the stairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. You go to the stairs. They
I would
go
like
up
to
and reach that
step-
landing and a door with no knob that is firmly closed.
Well, I would at least, he said only the faithful, right? Right? Didn't he say only believers?
You're talking to yourself right now, because right now there is a cacophony of popcorn popping downstairs, confetti flying around, and people shuffling about. So you're just exclaiming that out loud to yourself.
Hedrick will try to attempt to pray to Valen.
What do you say? What is your prayer?
So his prayer would simply be, Valen, I've never tried to speak to you before, but you have been a guide to my good friend Jha'rell. And I hope, if I could, be a follower of you, that you would guide me. And in one of the ways I would serve is by protecting Jha'rell when I can, if you will it.
Okay, you say the words.
I would at least try to push the door and touch the door and see if anything would work at the door.
You press your hand against it. There's a pregnant pause.
How far along are they?
It's better than a pregnant pause.
I don't know why I bother. And after a moment, the door swings open to your touch. Back on the top floor, Zero and Jha'rell, you guys ascend further to the 6th level. Here there is once more a door with no handle.
Yep, Jha'rell touches it.
You touch it and it swings open, wide.
Oh, like fast, super fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This room, it's very high ceilings. In fact, the ceilings actually go right up to the pointed peak of the spire. There's like scaffolding and rafters above your heads as like it reaches that conical sort of grade. There are portholes at the top there. You can actually see that there are a number of ravens perched on the scaffolding. The swing of the door open and like the thud it makes as it hits the wall, kind of causes some of the birds to start fluttering around and flying up there. But it's kind of, you can barely make that out because projected against sort of the ceiling is almost like this backdrop of the night sky. It's almost as if you were looking to the outside of the tower itself. You can see the constellations and everything like that mapped out as it slowly swirls, very, very slowly across the top.
It was daytime when we arrived.
Yes, this is just a projection of like the sky, like the night sky with like the constellations and things like that. Across the room from you, because this is one of those a situation again where the door opens to your side and now kind of opens up into like the center of the room. Directly at the end, there is a raised section of the room that has a dais with a large crystal ball set on top of it. There are 2 doors that go off to the side of that, like sort of raised platform that seems to extend back to something further behind where it actually reaches the walls. Like there's a chamber kind of set into that. On either side of you, there are candelabra standing. There are many different like smaller rooms and antechambers off to the side. And you're kind of staring kind of down this almost like tunnel. It's carpeted from the entryway all the way to the raised platform and even up the steps. There is a lone figure wearing, clerical robes, looking, like with like a book in one hand, looking down into the crystal ball. And he looks up as he sees the door swing open. Ah, Lord Jha'rell, we have been expecting your arrival. Please, do come in.
Do I know Arch Cleric Bronson from? I mean, the Supreme Arch Cleric seemed to know me, like more personally, because he had taken me in almost himself after my father.
You know of Archcleric Bronson, but he's not someone you've really worked with much in the past. Like you may have fetched a thing for him, a thing or two for him in the past, like in your early years, just kind of assisting and helping, as you were taken under the wing and learning the ways of the Archclericy. But he's not someone you know well.
Do I remember anything about him in particular?
I don't know. Roll me a history check.
I'm gonna use my inspiration. Because that's a nat 1. I'm gonna use my inspiration. It's still an 11, but it's not a nat 1. It's a 12. I'm sorry.
You don't know too much about him. He kept to himself mostly. He had his own duties and his own responsibilities, so it's you don't really know too much about what his.
He's essentially a stranger
was.
to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know him by name and position only. You don't really know him like personally.
Do I know what that orb is?
No. You've actually never been up here. You've never been allowed up here before.
I am allowed, but I've never been. Okay.
You've never like had any reason to be here.
Jha'rell will bow. Archclerk Bronson, it is a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance. Let me introduce you to Omega Prototype 0.
Before you get any further in the room, have you started walking in, or are you still at the door, Jha'rell?
No, I'm making introductions before we enter.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my lord. It's quite hard to hear you from here. Please, do come in. We can exchange pleasantries at that point.
Yeah, Jha'rell would enter.
0 will stay half a step behind and 1 step to the right, Jha'rell's right at all times. So he's at his right hand, slightly behind. 0 will not do any bowing when Jha'rell does, though. He's just going to stand there and, look like someone of his station would.
And
deal with the person he's supposed to protect.
Gotcha. Archcleric Bronson then says to you, Jha'rell, "Oh, do close the door behind you. It can get a bit drafty in here."
Does Jha'rell only have to touch the door to close it?
You'd have to actually swing it closed.
Oh, I have to push it. It doesn't just close on its own after I touch it?
No.
Okay.
Do you
Jha'rell
do that?
would. Yeah.
Okay. Then you close the door. Thank you. Now that business is out of the way, what have you come here seeking? I assume the Supreme Archcleric sent you.
He did. I have been sent for this almost singular purpose of preventing the fall of this tower and the temple, of course. However, there may be some bigger things at play here.
Ah, yes. Well, what do you make of our current situation, then?
Have you ever seen what happens to the followers of a faith when their god actually dies?
He says, I mean, I am but a humble human who's only lived a short life. It pales in comparison to those of other races who may see centuries pass. These are unprecedented times, my lord, as you know. All I see is the people revolting, rising up against the faith, biting the hand that feeds, sowing chaos where there should be order, disregarding the rule of law when that is what has protected them for centuries. What do you make of that situation, Oathtaker?
Jha'rell kind of... So there's almost like a circle around where he's reading in front of this orb.
It's actually more like a raised platform that kind of it's almost trapezoidal because it kind of angles, and then there's doors that go off to the left and right to like a chamber behind.
Mm-hmm. So Jha'rell kind of moves to the left in front of him and says, "My purpose is to restore that order. How many of our growing ranks have come from the other faiths recently?"
Only a few. We've had to put the call out outside of High Rock. There are too many running mad in the street. What would you do about this problem with the rabble and this lawlessness that pervades our streets? How would you suggest we solve this?
How many of your paladins have reached a level where they could successfully bless or remove curses from individuals?
None. We have not had the time, and the connection to Our Lady has been disturbed. However, those of us of the highest calling still are able to feel the the grace of her wisdom.
Jha'rell would know that bless in some of those more basic.
I need to stop you there. No, it's not, because you don't even get to cast spells to level 3. So
okay, so it's 3. So no, not many have reached level 3.
And by that I mean, like, dude, it takes an incredible amount of like skill and experience to actually reach that. Like, I think that you have to understand, like a D&D player character is already more powerful than the average person, even at level 1.
Sure.
So it is actually quite rare to have a large number of people possess that level of power. Even if to you it may seem minuscule because you did that ages ago.
Right.
Others, it takes a lifetime to even reach that level.
So
most of these people are foot
paladins
soldiers.
aren't going to be able to do. Yeah, they're just soldiers
Foot soldiers of the faith.
being called paladins. Because
At most base level, that is exactly what they did. They take the oath and they serve the archclerisy and Valen with their might.
So the question he poses is still whether or not they've tried blessing or converting even the individuals driven mad.
We have been rejected, as you can see. Look at what was happening when you first arrived here. I saw your arrival. And he looks down at the crystal ball. I saw you trying to help the lawless heathens. Have you forgotten your oath to preserve law and order? That's always been the problem with you, Jha'rell. It's never been about your oath. It's always been about your personal glory. You've been blinded by the higher calling. You've been blinded by your own arrogance. So we've decided, we've brought you here to do a little better this time. And he like waves his hand. And from the door to his right, so to your left, it opens up, and out walks Jha'rell. And that's what we're going to call this episode of the Hapless Heroes podcast.
Doppelganger!
Goddamn doppelgangers!
Doppelganger! Doppelganger!
This is doppelception. It is. Dude.
If you like us, you can find us on the internet. We are on such places as Twitter and Twitter and Instagram at Hapless Heroes. You could also find us by searching Facebook or Reddit for just a Hapless Heroes podcast. Those places will really just redirect you, though, to what we consider to be the crown jewel of our internet presence and where we hang out most of the time, our Discord server. You can meet, interact with us, the cast, or the wonderful members of our audience and talk about all manner of topics, whether it's your favorite episodes, which we have spoiler tagged. So even if you're, catching up from some other later time, like, you won't have to worry about spoiling things for yourself just so much. To just other topics like, why does pineapple not belong on pizza? Don't say anything, Nicole. I see the
So
face.
many reasons.
And other contentious topics such as that. We promise to keep it a safe, inclusive, and awesome space for everyone. So, it's just a cool place to hang out. But if you really like us, you could leave us a 5-star review on the podcast service of your choice. It's just a wonderful thing whenever we see another review come in. It just really, just makes us feel all happy and like we're doing the right things over here with this little amateur podcast we've been doing for the last 4 years. And hey, if you write some nice words about us, we will say some nice words right back to you right here on the air and tell you that and treat you like the 5-star human that you are. But if you really like us, you can donate to our Patreon. Just patreon.com/haplessheroes. We have a lot of great rewards at every tier, whether it's just a shiny roll in our Discord server to access to bloopers, and behind the scenes audio and other things that we just keep slapping in there to entice you to help support our show. And really, I mean, even if you don't have the funds and just enjoy listening to the show, that's cool too. We're not forcing you to pay for this. We do this for free. But for those of you who have donated, we effing love you. You've helped us literally pay our hosting costs for the last 2 years. It's been a tremendous help, as well as just, maintaining all the equipment that we use in these challenging times, especially.
And if you like us, right now, you love us, Sally Fields, and the whole deal. Buy a farm, a whole farm. It's gonna be expensive, so you might have to save up for a while. But buy a farm, get all the different animals, and dress each animal up as your favorite specific characters. I'm curious to see which animal would be which character for sure. I already know what to do is going to be, but I mean the rest of them. And have them perform your favorite episodes of The Hapless Heroes for anyone who will pay to see it.
Wow.
I'm only accepting Sally Fields because it was a doppelganger episode. That's the only reason.
Multiple field.
With a Z.
Right.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and doppel us out of this
That was
by
awful.
outroing. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Awful. I claim full responsibility for that. Starting from my right, we've had John playing Lord Jha'rell the Light.
No, it can't be! It's impossible!
Phil as Hedrick the Entertainer.
How did I do that? How did it even fit up my sleeves?
Nicole as Boris the Butcher.
Ooh, confetti.
Mike as Lord and Captain Quinn Southwind. And Dave as Zero, Valen's Avatar of War.
Fantastic. Now we have 2 frauds in the room.
Hey, and I'm Francesco. I've been your host and DM. We'll see you next week as we continue this thrilling adventure. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye. Goodbye.